Yeah, so now why don't we just roll a package so you can kind of see, this is an example of something that we did a couple live shots in the morning at this place. So we went out at about 8 or 9. We went live in this fire lookout tower for our morning show, did some interviews, and then we took everything we shot and we put it together for this segment that aired on the evening news. So Doug, if you want to play that.
It's a great view and it's a worthwhile service, I believe.
On top of Pilot Hill in El Dorado County, a 3-story lookout tower provides a panoramic view nearly 100 miles in every direction. But this breathtaking vista also serves an important purpose.
Looking out over the area, scanning. In fact, I'm just going to take a quick scan because fires do pop up that quickly.
Mike Davis is a volunteer lookout. He spends about 6 hours at a time scanning the horizon, looking for smoke.
So we use binoculars to pinpoint. From there, then we would come to our fire finder. That's this device here. And what that does, it helps us locate as far as a direction and also distance. The main thing we're here is to early detection.
The tower has been here since the 50s and used as a lookout until the 1990s, when CAL FIRE began using cameras to detect smoke instead.
2007, 2008, the lookouts were no longer staffed.
For years, this building and others like it have sat empty, but now CAL FIRE is restaffing these lookouts so they'll have more eyes on the horizon when fires do pop up.
Human eyes are very much better than a camera, because sometimes in some of those outlying areas, if the camera's just not pointed in the right direction, it may miss it.
Human eyes, we can look at it, we can discern, we can say that looks like dust or that looks like smoke, and we can make adjustments.
As California wildfires have become more destructive in recent years, CAL FIRE is bringing 4 lookout towers across Amador and El Dorado counties back online.
And it's manned entirely of volunteers from our community, which is really awesome.
Volunteers like Mike, who says he feels safer knowing someone is up here.
It does give me a little bit better peace of mind that there might be somebody up here looking out to prevent catastrophic fires that we've seen in the past.
In Pilot Hill, Olivia DeGennaro, Fox 40 News.
Let's talk about shooting the story. When you're shooting a story like that, you saw the guy Mike who was using the binoculars. He's a great character. So that's a really good tip, is find a character, find somebody who's emotionally invested. He's someone who's volunteering hours on end up in the top of this tower by himself to make sure fires don't pop up. And how does that affect everybody? That affects all of the people living out in that hilly area, which is pretty rural. And when fires do pop up, we know that they can be pretty destructive in rural areas. So that was our main character that we wanted to focus the story on. So that's really where most of our sound came from. And then you saw the woman from CAL FIRE too. She's a great second source to talk to, because she knows the logistics of when that fire tower went offline, when it came back online, fire stats, things like that, that Mike, the guy at the lookout tower, might not necessarily know. And you don't need to always have 2 people. You don't need to have more than that. Sometimes 1 person is enough. It just kind of depends on the story. Okay, so now, Doug, I'm going to have you go through those 4 editing screens. So these are directly off of my computer from that fire lookout story. So once we're done shooting the story, we get our interviews, we get the B-roll, we get all the shots. In that case, our photographer flew the drone, which is really awesome, really great way to show the lookout tower. Then we ingest it all. We've been using for the past many years at Fox 40 Final Cut Pro. We're just now switching over to Premiere Pro, but this was still edited in Final Cut Pro. So this is what it looks like when everything is ingested. You can see on the far left all the different projects I've worked on in the past couple months, not even all of them, but there it is, all ingested. And then you'll see at the very bottom on the timeline a bunch of clips of the CAL FIRE spokesperson first, all back to back, and then the volunteer lookout guy that we talked with, Mike. So what I like to do is I go through each interview. It's one big long clip when you do the interview, and I pull out, we call it logging. So I pull out all the sound bites that I think could be usable, right? That could be really good. And I just line them all up on the timeline, all the ones that I think could be useful to the story. That way I'm not trying to shuffle through a huge long clip every time I want to find a soundbite. It just simplifies it. Okay, so then my next step is writing the script. And I always go into it writing around the sound. I want Mike, the volunteer, to tell the story. He's going to say things way more compelling than I could say because he's the one emotionally invested in this. He knows it way better than I do. So this is an example of a story, the exact story script that you just saw. This is what I sent in to my managers to approve. So at the top, there's an anchor intro. I write what the anchor back in the studio is going to say when they toss out to the package. I really like to start with a sound bite or a big pop of nat sound to really draw people into the environment. And then I just go through all the best sound bites, not all of them that I put on the timeline, but all the ones that I really think we can't tell this story without. And I like to write in between the sound bites. So really letting that person tell the story and the interviews tell the story, because like I said, they can tell it way better than I can. And writing a script, you just get faster as you do it. It just takes practice, but I think starting with the sound is the easiest way. Okay, so then let's move on to step 3. In between there, of course, I record once I get the script back and my managers have approved it. I record my soundtrack that you heard. And so now what you're seeing is that first clip of Mike right there. And then right under it, below it, that's my first clip that I recorded of my sound. And then I grab the next clip from Mike, and then I put my sound in. So I have a template to go off of. I have my script. As I pick the sound bites I like from the big, long timeline with all of the log sound on it, I just grab them and start pulling them onto a new timeline just to be more efficient. And then I splice my audio track in between. So that gives you an idea of how that the A roll that we call it gets all down there. So sound bites and then my voice track. And then we'll go to step 4, which is adding B-roll in. I think a lot of you know what B-roll is. That's all the great, awesome drone video and all those really great rack focus shots that our photographer got to really tell the story. And then I lay that in over the top of everything. And that also is just a really good visual indicator when I'm watching and needing to make tweaks. I like to have it all separated out like that because it just makes it all faster and more efficient for me. So I know that we went through that kind of fast, but I hope that makes sense to you. Really, the big things are writing the script around your sound. Start with your sound and then write your script around it. And then, of course, when you're laying your B-roll, you want to start with the best visuals that you really can't live without, that you want people to see first because you want people to keep watching your story, right? You worked so hard on it. You want people to keep watching and be drawn in. And then, and of course, this is another really great tip that one of my college professors gave me. And I think about this all the time when I'm editing. And most of the time I'm doing my own editing of the story. So I do work with a photographer pretty much every day right now, but I'm usually the one editing everything, or sometimes the photographer does too. It just depends. But one of my professors told me, see it, say it, say it, see it. I don't know if you've ever heard that. See it, say it, say it, see it. So if I'm talking about the fire tower that's been out of commission, I want to show the fire tower that's been out of commission. If I'm talking about firefighters being really busy, I want to show firefighters being really busy. Even in that live shot scenario, again, that's not necessarily when you would use this, but if I'm talking about what the fire is burning, all those pallets that we're burning, I want to show the pallets. So think about that when you're editing. If you have a clip of B-roll that goes really well with what you're saying or with what your interview subject is saying, you want to show that at the time they're saying it, because viewers, that's how they understand, right? When somebody's talking about something, we want to see what they're talking about. So that's a really good tip that I think about all the time when I'm editing. So does anybody have questions about the editing process or the difference between a package and a live shot or anything like that?
There are some questions about what A-roll and B-roll is. I was noticing.
Okay.
That vocabulary real quick. Can you just refresh everyone? A-roll,
yeah. So A-roll is going to be all of the interviews and my sound, my voice. So basically everything but the B-roll is kind of what we call A-roll. So that is that second screen I showed you where it had the interview with Mike and then my soundbite, and then the interview with Mike and then my soundbite, and then the interview with the Cal firewoman and then my soundbite. That's what we call A-roll. Then we go in and B-roll. So that was that next level of video with all of the clips on top that covers up all of the empty spaces where it's just my voice.